As I saw the city come into view, I was filled with a sense of injustice. Returning to the place where it all went wrong. The buildings were taller. The streets were wider. The people were different. But the feeling was the same. The car's siren blared as I drove through the streets. I weaved in and out of traffic, making my way to the city's center. The people were like ants below me as I looked down at them. Somehow I knew, as soon as I landed, I would be sucked back into the life I tried to escape. The habits, the patterns, the same people who pretended to be my friends. I was like a fly stuck in a web, unable to break free no matter how hard I tried. I parked the car and walked the last block. As the sun went down, the light on the overbearing buildings grew more intense. Night was the time when crime stopped taking a back seat, when the city's dark underbelly surfaced. I arrived at Police HQ. It was a nondescript, beige structure, 3 stories high, sandwiched between 2 taller buildings. The windows were dirty, the paint peeling. I walked in and saw security guards sitting behind a desk.
Can I help you?
They sent me down here to speak to Simon Welch. A quick nod and a pointed finger sent me straight to interrogation room 4. Countless criminals had been questioned inside this room. Their combined sweat and desperation had stained the walls and floor. I sat across from him, and we stared at each other for what felt like forever. He was the first to speak.
I didn't do it.
He couldn't stop moving in his seat. Something had him agitated. That something was the knowledge he was going to have to pay for his crime. We have videotape of you standing over the body. The suspect refused to speak, so I went over to the monitor and put it up on the wall. After a moment, the suspect relented.
It's not like I wanted to. Tiff Saxby made me.
Tiff Saxby. Not a name you wanted to hear when you're working a case. Prime criminal enterprise material. She was convicted of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and other crimes. Evidence evaporated with the bodies she had dumped in the desert outside the city. She didn't even hide what she was doing. She bragged about it. Welch gave me a sense of how to find her. I left knowing he would spend his days in a cage. He sat in silence, awaiting his fate. As I crossed the city, I thought about how I was going to arrest Saxby. I could try to sneak up on her, but criminals are paranoid, they set traps. I thought about backup, but my colleagues always let me down. Trigger-happy fingers. I decided to try something different. If I talk to her, maybe I can get her to come with me without any violence. Finding her wasn't too hard. Getting her alone was. I waited outside her main hangout, the Silver Nugget Casino. It took a few days, but I learned her patterns. She sometimes took walks alone at dawn, safe in the knowledge she was too powerful, wielded too much influence in the city for anyone to dare touch her. But I wasn't from the city. The more I watched, the more nervous I became. Anytime now, some higher-up type might whisper words which reached her ear, letting her know that she was being spied on. Top brass screwed me over before, and I wasn't going to let them do it again. I approached her from behind, my gun drawn. My heart was pounding the wrong way, and I couldn't stop the sweat beating on my forehead. I could feel a sense of unease, as if a voice somewhere was warning me not to do this, that I was out of my depth. She had long curly hair and wore an intricate hood that concealed most of her face. Saxby. She turned, reaching to her hip for a holstered Mark 6 blaster. You can try, but no guarantee you'll get to it in time.
Who are you?
Detective Rotten. I'm the one who's going to take you in. She bristled at the suggestion. I could sense her anger, though she made no immediate sound.
Take me in. I don't get taken anywhere. You don't know who I am or who I know.
The idea was so offensive to her that she refused to even consider it. It was clear her emotions started to boil, and she felt her face flush with anger. I was about to respond when I heard a commotion coming from down the street. I turned to see an explosion of blue and gold energy as pieces of vehicle came flying towards us. Saxby used the distraction to her advantage, darting forward, whipping her gun from her side. As she did, she felt a sudden, intense pain in her chest. She stumbled back, clutching at the wound as she saw me get back to my feet. All that time and effort building an empire, whisked away from her with a single bullet, delivered by a chump like me. I know it's part of this job. It's not the taking of a life that bothers me. It's the taking of a life that doesn't have to be taken. As I stood over her, she managed to whisper a fading word.
Dencourt.
A shiver ran down my spine. Soon as I heard it, I knew what it meant. Dencourt was the name of the interplanetary mining corporation enveloped by a wave of corruption and scandal a few years back. It was the company my father had been investigating before he died. And now, it seemed, its tentacles were weaving themselves into my life as well.
Welcome to Dencourt.